Hello, Sarah Gross here again with my lovely co-host Kelly O'Mara. And Kelly, we're pretty sweaty.
We're pretty sweaty and we're like a couple hours late today.
Yes.
But it's not just because, it's just because the Olympics, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going. There is a lot of sporting events around the city of Paris, some of which we have been attending.
Yes.
But yeah, it has been like a super hot 24 hours. Like yesterday, it was 35 degrees Celsius. What is that in Fahrenheit?
It was 95.
It was 95. So just to give you
I don't know if
idea.
that's actually the same conversion. I'm just saying on my phone it said it was 95.
Right.
So
it was okay. Yeah. It will be about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was 95. And then today for the triathlon, especially for the men's race at 10:45, it was pretty stifling in that crowd.
And on the subway.
and in particular on the subway. Okay, but I made a point of saying to Kelly last night because we went to watch the women's 7 rugby yesterday afternoon, eve/evening. And I was like, we're not talking about triathlon first. We are talking about rugby. Rugby sevens. Honestly, I've never seen it in real life. And it is like a very, very exciting game.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, we, again, there's just too much sporting going on. And we had bought tickets for a session that was like 6 hours long.
Like, honestly, okay, so this is what, it is incredible to have 60,000 people watching a women's sport, right? Watching rugby in the first place. So that was incredible. What I thought was doubly incredible is that like, a percentage of those, like 40 or 50,000 of those people
were there all day,
stayed for 6 hours to watch women's rugby.
To be clear, like you bought a ticket and it just says it starts at 2:30 and we were going to go at 2:30. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh, it's like at 2, there's like some pool play and then there's semifinal games. And then there's like some games to determine who was really 6th and who was 8th and who was 9th. And then the finals don't start till 6:30 or 7. So then you're like, I did not have it in me to go to 6.5 hours of rugby in the sun.
You called it like we timed that right. Like we got there just in time for the silver medal match and
bronze, but
sorry,
they don't play for the silver medal. That would be fantastic, actually,
for the bronze medal game, and then we saw the gold medal.
Yes, so we watched the bronze medal game and the gold medal game, and it was like a crazy crowd. It was, 60,000 is I think the capacity of the stadium, or 66, because that's what it was in pool play. It was full. It was pretty full again for when we were there, but like you said, there was people. Like it was like nobody else showed up when we showed up. Everybody else had been there, so there was people coming and going for like if they were there for their team.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting, like very exciting.
Right. And then like in the bronze medal match, the American woman who like got the ball at the 11th hour, like the time was literally on 0 and she's running full tilt like only a rugby player can.
I know. And like we should preface this with, so the US and Australia were playing for bronze and both Sarah and I were like, oh, Australia has it. It's kind of done.
Yeah, we both had like kind of tuned out that like we thought the game.
Right.
We thought that Australia had the bronze. We were like,
they were up by 5. There was 27 seconds left. We don't really understand timing in rugby because it seems to mean nothing. Like the clock starts and stops arbitrarily. So we were like, oh, okay, Australia's won this. Like, good job, US. You did your best.
Yes.
And
they would have done well to come forth.
And then the clock's like out. And she gets the ball. She like gets past a defender, or I mean not a defender, but she gets past a person, and so all of a sudden she has a clear shot, and she's just takes off, and then it's like then she converts for 2, and all of a sudden they are winning after time's up, and like the Australian players are crying for other reasons. The US players are crying. The like family of the girl who scored the goal was sitting next to us, or some of the family, because other of her family came up to meet them. They're like crying.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was like a highly exciting Olympic moment. And I think also like bear in mind that like the US has never won a medal in rugby, men's or women's. So like,
well, to be like sevens rugby, I guess back in like 1904 or something, like when we didn't let the whole world play, we might have won a medal. Yeah.
But yeah, in sevens. And so like it was a moment for the US. I'll give you that.
It was very exciting. And and I think it also helps like, so the U.S. has kind of their captain's been like kind of a pretty big star on social. Somebody was joking, I guess on the broadcast, they said that she's the 3rd most followed rugby player in the world. She is now the most followed rugby player in the world on social media overnight. So she's been like just really, she's been doing hilarious reels from the village, like just really funny stuff. And she's also been like a pretty big outspoken advocate. And then like to have
body image,
for body image and for like women's sports generally. I always feel like being an outspoken advocate for body image is a weird sentence.
Positive body image.
You could be like,
Yeah. I think they knew what I meant.
Yeah.
But
Still a weird sentence. Anyway.
Yeah.
So she's been kind of awesome and been like mini star of the games. And then for them to medal for the first time ever, which then came with like, apparently there's gonna be like a $4 million investment in US rugby now to like grow women's. So you do really just feel like I think there's a pro league starting next year too in the US. I'm like,
oh, really? Rugby.
Sure about that. Yeah.
So yeah, women's rugby having a moment in the US for sure.
For sure.
Our Canadian women played for the gold medal against Australia.
No, they played New Zealand.
Oh, US played Australia.
Yeah.
We played New Zealand. Sorry, I'm too sweaty to think.
It's been very long, yeah. And I mean, they got silver. I gotta say, New Zealand's on like another level when it comes to rugby. They just are. It's just true.
Canada played a good game. Like it was a good game. And it was close.
They were up. They were up at one point.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a dirtier game.
Yeah, they were funny. Like where they went. So at first, the New Zealand team got away with a try, and like they kind of let her go.
Yeah.
And then when she was like standing, she was like just standing after the try was done
to run the clock down.
Or like standing there before touching it on the ground, basically.
Right.
And people started booing. And so then it was actually kind of fun because then the Canadian woman who got the first try did the same thing. So it was kind of evened out, and it kind of made it funny almost. Like gave it some levity. I really like that.
I don't know that they thought it was hilarious. Just to be,
I was like, haha, tit for tat. Like,
right. I think they took it quite seriously.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was really fun. Like rugby, highly recommend if you haven't watched rugby. We so far highlighted the games.
Yeah.
But it's funny though because we were at rugby and we get home and it's like the big thing everyone else watched last night was the all around gymnastics team competition, which we saw none of. No, I only saw it on socials later.
Yeah. So Kelly, what happened?
I mean, the US won, which is great. It's like one of those things where it's like 100% predictable. Literally, they're like it's something that can both be predictable and be awesome. Is what I'm trying to say. Like they did what they were expected to do, and yet it was really, really nice to see them because they've all gone through a lot.
Right. They were as awesome as they were expected to be. Exactly. Is that what we're trying to say?
Yeah. They won by like over 5 points, and if they're on, they're very hard to beat just because they have such difficult routines. But that team. They've just done a lot for changing gymnastics.
Yes.
And like changing the attitude within it. They're all very supportive of each other, which I like. They're all like super.
And Simone Biles in the big comeback. And, you know.
And I mean, it's also like with Suni Lee also came back and Jordan Childs almost quit the sport because people were super racist to her. And then Simone Biles was like, come join my gym instead and have fun. So I just feel like they have a lot of fun. But it's really hard. It's hard being an Olympic spectator. On the ground here,
it's so hard.
It's just so hard. So we just didn't even get to see that.
It is true that it's like very time consuming, to make content and be out there on the sun watching all the things. I mean, it's like comedic to complain about, but yeah. I had to dig in deep a couple times.
Today when we we did actually see some actual.
We did see
in person.
Well, yes,
right. Because you can't, it's very hard to watch on TV here. It's very hard. Like we just aren't really watching it the way you might at home. But we will talk about it after our break. We did go and see actual triathlon. And yes, we had to do some digging deep after. I thought I might have him. I was like pretty close to like, I'm just fucking done. I'm done with France, done with police.
Oh yeah.
I don't even care anymore about what's happening.
I can confirm that is the state Kelly was in. Okay, let's before we go down that rabbit hole, let's take a break and hear from our partner.
If you're like us, you're totally inspired by Katie Ledecky and Summer McIntosh and more ready than ever to up your swim training. So let's take a minute to talk about hair and skincare for swimmers. You've probably asked yourself questions like, how can I keep my hair healthy and hydrated as a swimmer? How can I avoid my skin feeling itchy and dry after being in the pool? And how can I get rid of those pesky goggle marks around my eyes? Enter TryHard. TryHard has pre- and post-swim solutions designed to reduce the absorption of pool and ocean chemicals into your hair and skin. We love using TryHard's pre- and post-swim conditioner before and after every swim to keep our hair feeling great. TryHard also has a bunch of other products useful for swimmers, like their pre- and post-swim eye gel, which totally works for getting rid of those pesky goggle marks and puffy eye feeling, while providing hydration and a cooling effect. TryHard products are vegan, dermatologically tested, and packaged in recycled plastic. Whether you're swimming in the pool, the ocean, or maybe even the Seine, Take care of your hair and skin with TryHard. Use the code FEISTYGAMES for 22% off site-wide at tryhard.co. Plus, you'll get an extra 5% off during sales on top of the already discounted price. That's Feisty Games for 22% off at tryhard.co. Historically, athletic footwear has been designed, researched, and tested for men. Brands have relied on the shrink it and pink it approach to sell male shoes to female customers. That's why we are so excited Heddas is working with us on our Paris coverage. Heddas is building high-performance, technical running shoes for women from the ground up. They operate from a purely female perspective, which we love, and their mission is to ensure the female running experience gets the funding, research, and recognition it deserves. Heddas has unlocked the science behind women's biomechanics through dedicated research and creates better shoes for women's performance. Some of Heddas' special features include a lower ankle collar to reduce rubbing on women's ankle bones, a breathable mesh toe box to allow for ventilation and accommodate female toe shape, and a supercritical foam and Pebex plate midsole to keep our legs going when the going gets tough. Heddas has 3 shoe models designed for different sessions: the Alma Cruise for long runs, the Alma Tempo for training days, and the Alma Speed for pushing the pace. Celebrate the outstanding performances at the Olympics with your own pair of Heddas. Use the code FEISTY20 for 20% off at heddas.com. That's Feisty20 for 20% off at heddas.com.
Okay, Kelly.
We're rallying to talk about triathlon.
The time has come to talk about triathlon.
It's not that we don't love triathlon. It's that there was like 6 hours of triathlon.
It was a long triathlon. Like even Olympic distance back to back. Especially when you're like elbowing other people out of the way to like stay right in the front line to watch it.
So I feel like we should be clear. So what happened was we know we talked about this yesterday, but if you're just tuning in, they rescheduled the men's because of the bacteria to right after the women's today. So it was 8 a.m. women, 10:45 men. And when we got up, when I was woken up at 5 a.m. by the storms, it was like, oh no, it's storming quite hard. And so there was a lot of questions. I think we all were like, yeah. But this is kind of funny, and I know this isn't actually, but they take their reading at 3:30 and then they're like, oh, we're done for the day. Not gonna take another reading. Like, it's good. Yeah. So it didn't start raining till after that. So it's a little like, don't ask, don't tell. But I think there's also like, it does take some time. Like, even when it rains, it does take some time for that pollution to drain into the river. So everyone was like, how could this be okay? And it's like, well, it's not like an immediate.
Yeah. Although I have to say, like, when I woke up at 6 and I was like opening my phone and I knew the message from you was coming into our group chat and I was like holding my breath as I clicked it to see it. I was like, yay, it's on.
It was, I mean, even right before I was like, they're going to delay because there was like lightning early. I mean, not right before, but you know, I thought they would delay, but no, it cleared up right before the women started. Yeah. And it was like super nice. The women did have to race then, like on wet roads, and there was a lot of crashing. Especially, we were standing right by one of the kind of big turns.
Yeah, like I think we personally saw like 7 crashes, maybe, and a lot of road rash running by.
A lot of road rash, just because where we were standing, they came kind of slightly downhill on cobbles into a turn on a wet road. It was narrow, and they just kept hitting the barricades.
It's so hard to watch too, like someone sliding across a pavement like that. Like, oof. Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty. I mean, there were other spots too, where people were just. It looked like they were going in a straight line, and they just fell. Like it was just slippery out there.
Slippery.
But then it dried up very quickly and got very humid and hot for the men's race. So we were out there for a long time, and it was hot. There were a lot of people out there too, though. I was like not entirely sure how many people were going to be there all day, and so it did obviously get more crowded later. Yeah. Though it's hard to say that was for the men's race. Some of it was definitely just people being like,
it was just later in the day, like people being more awake. But yeah, I feel like especially on the run, like the whole course was lined.
Because the other thing was like the loop on the run was smaller. So you did have all these people who had been on the bike course kind of come over then. Yeah. And line up behind you. Because we had our spot. We had our perfect spot. We weren't going to give up our spot. Yes. So then it was like 4 or 5 or deeper once all these people came over for the run. and some people like standing in trees on top of bus stops, jumping up and down. Oh,
I did think that one bus stop was going to collapse.
It was going to collapse, yeah. We actually did take a clip of the crowd, I think, so you can hear kind of how crazy it got.
Like who the person was that was like who the person was that was leading the group into starting the cheers.
Right. There were some very odd cheers that started. Like at some point we all started or not we all, many people, the whole crowd started cheering Mexico.
Yeah,
like but it wasn't a Mexican crowd.
Yeah.
It was
a
French
from
crowd.
Mexico got a lot of cheering. Just I think it's because he was on his own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously the French got a lot of cheering from the French.
French went crazy for the French. It was nuts. And in the women's race, you had 2 French women in kind of the front group on the, like by the time on the run, they kind of broke away. So every time they came, it was just insanely loud.
Allez les bleus.
Yeah. And then for the men, there were 2 French men kind of in third, fourth. And you knew they were coming well before you could see them.
You could hear the crowd. Okay, so Kelly, let's talk about the women's race a little bit. Did it play out how you expected? I mean, Flora was very impressive in that swim. Like she knew how to choose those currents, right?
I think it played out almost entirely as expected. I was sort of hoping that there would be a breakaway. And we were talking while we were out there that some people were trying to make breakaways happen. It was just too hard. I think because of the crashing, like you couldn't take the turns as hard as you wanted to because you didn't want to crash. So whereas maybe you could have like made a move on a turn and gotten away, you were like being a little bit more cautious. And then there's just weren't enough spots to like really go for it.
But even before that on the swim, like there seemed to be like more tactics to the swim than
there were because of the current. The current really changed things on the swim. So it kind of like because this is like one of those like if you really study right? Like current swim dynamics,
right?
Which you could tell who did and who didn't.
Yeah.
You know that like it's a lot stronger in the middle. So when you're swimming out, you want to be in the middle. And when you're swimming back against the current, you want to be as close to the side as possible.
Right.
And so at times that looked stupid. It looked like, why is that person swimming so far out of the way?
Yeah.
To like swim along this restaurant boat. Yeah. That's like on the side. But it made, so that's what like Flora was doing. And she's not usually the first person out of the water. And she just was putting gaps on people because she was swimming so much farther. Yeah. Same time, like Taylor Knibb was very far back. And like, I'm sure she was for her. This is all relative. And I'm sure some of it was crashing in the TT, but some of it was also like, I don't think she understood those dynamics as well. Right. Not that they didn't all like know, but I'm just saying like some people are like savvy.
Yeah. Some people can feel that stuff better than other. I mean, Flora is the defending
gold medalist. And she's like a very savvy racer, right? Where some people are like, I'm going to put my head down and just go, you know?
It's her 5th Olympic Games. Right. Like the woman knows what she's doing out there.
She knows what she's doing. Yeah. And so she did look like she was trying to get away on the first lap or two. And then after all the crashes, there was some, all right, I'm going to sit up. I'm going to eat something. Right. I'm going to like
wait for the group.
Wait for this
I wonder
group.
If she now wishes she had.
I think, So then, you know, a group of 8 or 9 or whatever it was, which is, I had everyone we expected in it.
Yeah.
Kind of was what we expected, except for some crashes here and there, you know. I think you were hoping maybe that wouldn't happen if you're Flora or if you're you know, Georgia Taylor Brown.
Yep.
But it was certainly the most likely outcome. And then you kind of had, I mean, it was, we all always thought it was going to be Cassandra and Beth running out of that front group.
Yeah.
I don't have like a personal favorite out of the two of them, but Cassandra Beaugrand run and then like pulling away with maybe a
French
K.
too, like so French she's like
French, pulling away with like I think it was like right at like 1,500 meters. She started to pull away in the French crowds for the win.
She would have had a lot of energy behind her.
Yeah, and she, I mean,
she did. We saw
she did, and it was one of the things when you're watching it in person, right? And this is, I think, again, one of the things that's different on the ground than on the TV. You don't know how fast they're running, right? So immediately on that first lap, the front 6 like dropped some pretty fast people,
right?
And you're like, did that person just like, are they running slower? And it was like, no, they're just running really
They ran
fast.
32 something?
They ran 32:50, 30. Like, I think Cassandra ran like 32:49 or something like that.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So
the sport has come so far.
And then she like basically like passed out of the finish line, right? Like they looked destroyed. They ran really, really fast. So it was just a very fast run.
And maybe that part of that fast run has to do with how tentative they probably had to be on the bike. Like after those first, after like you watch multiple people crash out of your pack, you probably, I bet they probably sat in a little bit more.
A little. I think for sure later, even though they did have to kind of put their heads down to make sure Taylor Knibb didn't drag a 15-person group up to them.
Yeah.
The big surprise for me, and I know like someone's going to be like, it wasn't a surprise. You should was Julie Darren in second. Every other person in the top 10, like 100% could have predicted.
Right.
I did not have her coming in second.
Right. The Swiss woman.
Yeah. And it's not that she's done a few 70.3s where she has like crazy fast run splits. So it's like, obviously we know she can run, but she's just never been in that front group consistently at like a WTCS level.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe she just had a really smart swim bike and then is like, well,
it's weird. I feel like never underestimate a Swiss woman in a triathlon. Yeah, that's just like a rule. Just like a rule of thumb.
In general.
Yeah. Just,
It's that's I was really impressed with that. It was like kind of funny because when it was coming down to it at the end and you're like, okay, it's Cassandra and Beth. Everyone's been saying that. Emma Lombardi, the other French girl, was right there with them, who a lot of people. And then Julie, you're like, holy shit, she's just going to like upset everyone and like win?
Imagine that.
That would be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
silver's still pretty big.
Still pretty big. Yeah. So it was very exciting to see in person. I think, it played out. I think we can say like both like, right. Like the US women winning the gymnastics titles, what we expected and still awesome. And so it played out largely how we expected, but still pretty exciting.
It played out.
And it played
which
out.
For a few days we did not know if it was even going to do that. So we're very grateful to have a triathlon actually.
And I think it did what the French, as if they're one entity, what the French wanted it to do, which was that like we did get that marquee event.
Yeah.
We did get 5-person deep crowds going crazy.
And all the shots around the core of Paris,
everyone watching it from home was like, oh, it looks great on TV. And I was like, okay, cool. I can only see like 4 people in front of me, right? Like,
although we got to stand on the Champs-Elysees. We're good.
We did.
Yeah.
So I think it did. And we have all this, like, we know that when like a home games, the home person wins in that kind of event on broadcast TV, like it has an effect in that country. So I think
triathlon's already popular here.
It is, but I think it's just going to be
on the rise.
Yeah. Yeah. The amount of sponsorship Cassandra should be able to get now is high.
Excellent.
Pay
women. Pay women more. Yeah. Okay, let's roll an ad and we'll come back and do our what we're looking forward to coming up.
Here at Feisty, we are dedicated to partnering with brands that are mission-driven and having an impact. That's why we are thrilled to be supported by Joni, a company creating game-changing period care for everybody. Many conventional menstrual products rely on plastic made from petroleum, a non-renewable resource. Did you know that in the US, approximately 12 billion pads and 7 billion tampons are discarded annually, and these products generate over 200,000 tons of plastic waste per year? It can take 500 to 800 years for a single petroleum-based plastic disposable pad to decompose due to its materials, and tampons with applicators also contribute to plastic waste, which can take centuries to break down. Joni is dedicated to bring the wasteful and antiquated feminine hygiene industry into the 21st century. Using a design-led approach, Joni's personal care products and commercial dispensers provide the most innovative and accessible period and leak care solutions in the world. Organic and free of harmful levels of chemicals or irritating fragrances, Joni's pads and tampons support menstrual health and the environment, while allocating at least 2% of revenues to break the cycle of period poverty, dismantle menstrual stigmas, and empower periods. Now that's what we call 21st century period care. Ditch uninspiring and irritating feminine hygiene products and say hi to Joni's silky soft, super absorbent, and toxin-free pads and tampons. Joni pads feature a wrapper and protective layer made from cornstarch, a plant-based material, making them biodegradable and compostable in the right conditions. Joni tampons are made with organic cotton. They're compostable, including the wrapper, which is made of cellulose. Choosing sustainable period products isn't just a trend, It's a movement. You can get 10% off your order with the code Feisty at getjoni.com. That's 10% off at GETJONI.com with the code Feisty.
There.
Okay, so just as before we started recording, everyone was commenting about how Ella's voice on on our partner reads is so good. So I just want to take a minute to go, thank you, Ella, for the wonderful partner reads, and definitely everyone take advantage of all the discounts that they're offering.
That was your thought you were thinking.
That was my thought. My thought was Ella's amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I have no transition now from that. So I was going to transition.
Speaking of amazing, Kelly.
That's where I was going, yeah. Speaking of amazing, we have some amazing events left. What are your picks left for today? Even though the day's almost over. I have to go
for today?
Well, I mean, the next 24 hours, because we'll be back tomorrow morning.
We'll be back tomorrow morning.
We will. That's how the podcast daily works.
Okay, well, track's starting soon.
Track is starting soon.
And I am so excited. That's what I have written down for what I'm looking forward to.
Is it track
literally
soon? Yeah.
on the run list. I can't wait for track to start. We have multiple days worth of tickets. We can bring you guys all of the in-person track news.
We do have a lot of days of tickets. They're converting the rugby stadium to the track stadium today, I think, and then track starts tomorrow. So that'll be exciting. Swimming's still wrapping up. We still have like Katie Ledecky doing her 800, 1500, which I looked at tickets and they were like $1,300, so I didn't buy them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good choices.
Yeah. I really want to go see beach volleyball though. But the other thing that we haven't really watched, and it's like not in Paris, and it's like hard to. The surfing got delayed because it was really dangerous too, and so we're kind of like waiting now for the final women's rounds to go.
Okay.
I know.
Well, the wait continues.
I know the wait continues, but it'd be exciting because it's this like very big wave that they used to not let women surf.
Oh,
I know. So.
Right. Okay. So we are waiting. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it's just postponed and not canceled. Like
no,
they don't like canceling.
No,
so
they're not going to cancel.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, we will be back tomorrow.
Earlier tomorrow.
We'll be back on time, dropping in the morning in North American time frame. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow.